Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. Our new release this week is The Cowboy's Beauty. It's the third book in Jessie Gussman's Sweetwater Ranch Western Cowboy Romance series, and it's always been one of my favorites. I mean, not just of this series, but all of Jessie's books. It's Jessie's take on Beauty and the Beast. And it's the story of Ford Hanson. We met Ford at the very end of the last book in this series, The Cowboy's Secret Baby, and he is the older brother of Ty Hanson, who you might remember is a world-famous professional hockey player. Well, even Ty admits that Ford was a better athlete than he was. Unfortunately, when he was a young man, Ford suffered a tragic and horrific farming accident that left him broken and disfigured. And on top of that, the woman he was with left him because of his appearance and his condition. All of that, understandably, caused Ford to withdraw. And from the shadows, you could say, he became a very successful and very wealthy software developer. But he's done all of this, again, from the shadows. Any interactions or customer facing activities have been done by his sister, Georgia. When Georgia decides to take a multi-week vacation to Europe, she realizes she has to find a temporary replacement for her while she's gone. Now, Ford doesn't really like any of her suggestions until she suggests Morgan Nelson. Ford remembers Morgan. She was the niece of some nearby neighbors, and he remembers her as an overweight, pasty girl with very bad skin and thick Coke bottle glasses. And he reasons that, maybe this girl, unattractive, will be easier for him to handle, and maybe she'll be more understanding of his condition. Well, little does he know that once Morgan got to college, she lost her extra weight, got medicine that took care of her skin, had eye surgery and lost the Coke bottle glasses, and now she is a very successful supermodel. Until she decides, then makes a stand that she's not going to wear something on a runway show that's demanded of her because she considers it indecent, and winds up walking away from her career. So when she comes to Sweetwater, uh, Ford is very, very unwilling to work with her. But I won't go into any more of the story, but I will say, as I was trying to think of things to say about it during this preview, that, with apologies to Disney, it is a tale as old as time, but it's actually a bit older than they think or that they mean in the song. Um, because if you think about it, it's actually very much like God's relationship with us. What I mean by that is if you look at the original tale of Beauty and the Beast, Beast is a cursed being. He has withdrawn, and not only that, but has given control of himself to all of his most base emotions, uh, hatred, self-hatred, anger. He's mean, he's hurtful every chance he gets. And more than anything else, he doesn't believe anyone can care for him until Belle arrives. And Belle shows him unconditional love. And it's through that unconditional love that he himself learns to love. And that is a great allegory for our situation with Christ. Christ's unconditional love for us can show us how to truly love and be set free of the curse that is on all of us who don't know him. And what's more, not only does Beast learn to himself love, he learns to love in a selfless way, because at the end of the fable, because of his selfless love for Belle, he sets her free, not knowing if she'll stay or not. That unconditional love can free us of our curse and make us better. And that was just a nice thought. Pretty cool, I thought. Anyway, we do have a sample of the Cowboy's Beauty for you. Hope you enjoy it, and you'll come back and listen this Friday to the whole thing here on Say with Jay.
She stood in front of the door to the solarium. Should she knock? After deliberating for a full minute, she reached for the handle and turned, pushing the door open. It was just as dark as before. Thankfully, the sky was clear again tonight, and the stars shone brightly. There was no moon, which made them seem even more brilliant. She walked slowly into the room, closing the door behind her. Her hand trembled, and she looked up at the stars to calm herself. Last week, we had an impressive display of the aurora borealis. His voice came from the shadows to her right. She took a shaky breath as her heart stuttered. He hadn't scared her so much, but his voice was dark and deep and evoked the same feelings that his scent did. The scent that was still shimmering in the air last night when she opened her door to a tray of crackers and cheese, along with another rose, ice water, plus the vase she'd asked for. I've been living in New York City a few years. You don't see the northern lights there. The husky note in her voice was new. She cleared her throat. My degree is in astronomy. This room is like a dream come true. She could hear his breath. I didn't know. You're welcome in here any time. I didn't get that impression the other night. She stared in the corner at the darkness where his voice came from. I'm sorry. His voice pulled at something in her chest. He sounded sincere. No, I'm sorry. You apologized. I forgave you. I shouldn't have brought it up again. I was rude, and I have no excuse. I'd like to start over if we can. We haven't really had much of a start. Thank you for the crackers and water. I owed you. Okay. And now we're starting over. She moved closer to his voice. He shifted, like her increased proximity made him nervous. She took 2 more steps and held her hand out. I'm Morgan Nelson, and I'm pleased to meet you. Long seconds passed. Silence fell so completely in the room, she could hear the blood tumbling through her arteries. Her hand grew heavy, and she was just about to awkwardly drop it back to her side when the shadow in front of her shifted and moved. Tall. Taller than her 6 feet and an inch. She could wear her highest heels and maybe look him in the eye. But she wore her favorite tennis shoes with jeans and an old college sweatshirt. And she looked up, searching for even a glow of his eyes. Nothing. He wore an oversized hooded sweatshirt, his face too far back and the night darkness too thick for her to make out any features. He shifted again, the loose material falling back and revealing his hand. Just before it grasped hers, she could see it was oddly shaped. He was missing fingers. Her eyes widened, and she sifted through her memories. The fingers he had left were long and narrow, supple as his hand touched hers. An odd, prickly current seemed to rip through his hand to hers. She tried to ignore it, focusing on the strength of his grip. His hand was strong, but the skin smooth, as befitted a man who earned his living sitting behind a computer. Again, she searched for his eyes, but the hood hid every feature. "You were in a farming accident." It was a question more than a statement. She'd been away at college and working every spare moment toward her modeling dream. Her aunt and uncle had relayed the small-town gossip, but she'd not paid much attention, too focused on herself. "Yes." She wondered if his fingers were the only thing he'd lost, but couldn't think of a way to ask that wouldn't seem rude. It made sense, though, that they weren't, which, of course, could explain why she hadn't yet seen him. He was embarrassed. No wonder her Google search had not turned up any pictures of Ford Hanson. "You got caught in a grain auger." He didn't answer. She had the distinct sense that she'd overstepped. She realized he still held her hand. Or was it her holding his? She loosened the fingers she hadn't realized had flexed around his.
Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.